welcome to match night 2 of...
And with Serie A survival, sad as it is, the overriding concern for Parma this season, the new coach Silvio Baldini has taken to offering the UEFA Cup as work experience for his youngsters and fringe first teamers. Great atmosphere at the Tardini. One or two getting a little bit overexcited, though maybe not Arrigo Sacchi, the former coach. Well, Baldini got away with using the fringes against Maribor in the first round, then was found out in the defeat in Bilbao that opened up Group B. What would happen now against Steaua Bucharest? With the Girardinos, Boneras and Marchionis nowhere to be seen. The second string made a pretty good fist of it here. First chance, by the way, being blown by Maccarone, who'd recovered from a knee injury. And Maccarone went tearing away again down the right-hand side before forcing the save from Tudor. Steaua had climbed to the top of the Romanian First Division with an emphatic 5-1 win against Național Bucharest at the weekend. But the side that was so impressive on Saturday failed to turn up here. It was all Parma in the first half. Took a while for Steaua to find any sort of rhythm. Neaga, one of the goal scorers in the 2-0 win in the first match for Steaua, helping set up Ogararu, but the effort was wide on the near post. Parma with only one win in their first 9 matches in Serie A. Their worst ever start to a season in the Italian top flight. Seem to be generating some confidence though. Good stop from Tudor again. Maccarone. It seemed to be Parma's best hope of goals here. Corner was only half cleared, played back into the middle, and another chance spurned by Maccarone. Into the second half, and Steaua threatening again from set pieces. That was Berti punching it out from Marin's delivery. Steaua had met Italian opposition on 4 previous occasions, the most painful of which was the 4-0 defeat in the final of the old European Cup against Milan 1989. Those goals from Ruud Gullit and Marco van Basten have now gone on to coaching. Parma, former winners of the UEFA Cup, of course, but really don't expect to emulate such feats this season. Dumitru there swung the cross in, and a good stop by Berti. The header from Gianea. Midway through the second period, and Maccarone trying to set things up for Parma. Shot on the turn though, blocked by Tudor as the flag went up wrongly, as we can see from the replay. Visitors seem to be missing Tiberiu Sert in the centre of their defence. Good ball swung in again for Maccarone. More space being afforded the former Middlesbrough striker. But one by one, these chances came and went. And won by Pisanu. And then just driven wide. Rosina found himself on the left-hand side. It was a cross shot that just eluded Maccarone. And just behind him, Marchioni, the substitute, had come on. Then 73 minutes gone. Again, Steaua holding firm. Marchioni with just the flicked header, eluded all of his teammates. They would eventually get a breakthrough, and that was it. Nothing more than Parma deserved it. Alessandro Budel, first ever goal for Parma, never mind that, first ever goal outside of the amateur game. So welcome to fans that remember the glory years in Europe. Really crisp low drive that beyond Tudor. And Stauer had just 10 minutes in which to recover. Was their first goal in the group stages and earned a first win. Parma next visit Standard Liège, while Stauer welcome Besiktas next month.
20 seasons ago, Athletic Club Bilbao and Besiktas met in the first round of the 85-86 UEFA Cup, with Athletic winning by 5-1 on aggregate. A repeat of that scoreline seemed unlikely. Salinas incidentally got a hat-trick on that night. Bilbao now meeting their second Turkish club in the last 3 UEFA matches. In the first round, they eliminated Trabzonspor, who'd lost the Champions League qualifying round earlier on in the summer. Both of these two teams coming into this match on differing levels of form. Steaua Bucharest in the previous game and Besiktas, of course, all in the same group. Besiktas had enjoyed a tremendous weekend with their third consecutive league victory and over arch rivals Fenerbahce, so they couldn't have been in better form coming into this game, and it told on the night as well. Besiktas in the black and white, Athletic Club as they now want to be known, dropping the Bilbao from their name in the blue. Del Bosque, the coach of Besiktas, has been under quite a lot of pressure in recent weeks. They had a decent pre-season, but the league campaign up until those couple of wins in the last few weeks has been pretty dire. They're still down in 8th place in the Turkish Superliga, and Bilbao are further down the Spanish Primera Liga than that as well. But they did get a decent result as well yesterday with a tremendous volley against Barcelona at the weekend. But they left plenty of space at the back. It was only a matter of time before Bilbao actually left too much space. This time it was Gunes, third goal of the season for the 25-year-old midfielder. 27 minutes had gone. In football terms, it's never the most hospitable environment to play in Turkey. And plenty of noise and atmosphere in this stadium here tonight. He always did look a bit ragged around the edges, didn't he, Del Bosque? He looked worn, weather-beaten. He's now looking even more so. The pressure momentarily being released. Well, the first ever game in Europe was against Spanish opposition. That was Real Madrid in the European Cup back in 1959. Best in the UEFA Cup, rather, was a quarter-final. Back in 2003, lost against Lazio, and the same scoreline again when they met Kiev. Now, at the other end, they thought there was a penalty there. Santiago Esquero going down. It's not been a good season for Esquero. In fact, it hasn't been a good couple of seasons for him. Back in 2002-2003, he did rack up 11 goals, which was about the best return he's ever managed in a Spanish season. Only 3 last season, and he's only managed to get on the score sheet once so far this season. And it rather fits in with the season that they're having as well. Yapegi has been easily the best player for them so far this campaign, but one player not really able to carry an entire league campaign. Shown some decent possession, though, in long portions of this game. 49 minutes, Esquero got his second goal of the season. It just shows you from that move and that finish what he was capable of doing. It's just one of those great unanswered questions as to why he doesn't do it more often. Both of these two teams have been around in European competition for years. Bilbao lost to Manchester United in the quarter-finals of the European Cup back in 1957. after beating them 5-3 incidentally in a home leg. What a game that must have been. 3 quarter-finals in the Fairs Cup, the old Fairs Cup. Now, more misery to come though. John Carew. He used to play, of course, in Spain. They should have known all about him. Hair's regrown, looks a bit different. He's a bit slimmed down. Former Valencia forward who spent a year out on loan with Roma last season. Wasn't completely unsuccessful during his time in Roma. Just the fact that nobody in Italy's got any money to spend on players legitimately, of course, these days, so he had to leave, and this is where he's come. And that's his 8th goal this season for Besiktas. Esquerra was in a great position again. Now, there was a claim there for a penalty, and the referee, not for the first time in this particular match, had to wave away pretty poor appeals. Now, the keeper was miles out of his goal, and the third one came 1 minute from time. Akin with the goal, 4th goal in his last 4 games to the 20-year-old, who's forging something of a reputation. But La Fuente, the goalkeeper, well, there's going to be questions asked afterwards about what was going through his mind, rather. Completely missed the ball. At that stage, I suppose, he did have to scurry back. He was positioned on the halfway line when that ball came back over. 3 goals to 1, scoreline that rather flattered Besiktas. But a tremendous result all the same. And capped, as we said, what has been a tremendous week for them. John Carew becoming something of a hero after he was involved in the goal scoring in that game. Quite how that missed, sort of emulated Roy Mackay rather, didn't he? It's from a fairly similar position. Number 55, Ibrahim Akin, was the second half substitute, Akin, so he hadn't been on all that long. But 1 goal and a miss, not a bad return for 10 minutes play. And Besiktas beating Bilbao by 3 goals to 1. Next up then, Partizan Belgrade, who opened their campaign with a match against the newcomers at Galio in their first season of qualifying for UEFA competition, and there was a hint of the inevitable about this scoreline. Ultimately, they would be outclassed on the night, the Greek team, but they made life uncomfortable for long periods, and even though they would ultimately run out the losers in this game, they wouldn't make it easy. Charistu opening the scoring. If you're going to make an own goal, you may as well make it a memorable one. And there it is. And this is Partizan's first meeting with the Greek side, despite playing UEFA competition since the first Champions Club Cup back in 1955 and 56. So some length of time. Sasa Ilic, the 26-year-old, has got such a prolific reputation with this team. 87 goals in 104 games, 5 goals this season. Spent some time out on loan with Celta Vigo. Didn't work for him there either. A number of players from this club have been in Spain now. Same man, Sasa Ilic. There's been plenty of clubs over the past couple of years that have taken a look at Ilic. In he goes again, same position. 6 minutes after the second one goes in, he's made it 3-0 as well. Galio are unbeaten in their domestic league. Partizan remain in buoyant form as well in the league too. Crossbar saving them from further embarrassment. And it's difficult really to show what sort of a performance they put in it, Gallia, but watching the game earlier on tonight, I can tell you that they certainly made life, as we said earlier, a little tougher than it seems. In highlights, it's all too easy, as it seems there from Vukcevic's goal, the number 4 on 69 minutes, to make it look very, very one-sided. Well behind Red Star, of course, Partizan in terms of ultimate achievement. Finishing with a flourish, but that was a tremendous save from Sidibe. Made the quarterfinals of the European Cup in 64, lost to Inter. Got to the final, of course, in 66, a 2-1 loss against Real. They beat Manchester United, you might remember, in the semi-finals of that game. Now, this ought to have been a goal, shouldn't it? It wasn't. Terrible finish in the end, that. And Liapakis can hang his head in shame. Partizan, of course, in the Champions League last year, won one game, beating Newcastle. 4-0 they've won here, though.
Well, Middlesbrough may have waited 128 years before qualifying for Europe, but now they're here, courtesy of last season's Carling Cup triumph. They're determined to make an impact. A 1-0 win at Gallia in Athens was the perfect start before Lazio arrived on Teesside in desperate need of at least a point after being held at home by Villarreal. And it was the visiting side from Rome that had the game's, well, first foray as well. Prodded out wide, but then driven wide. Good play, sweeping it across, and De Souza with Di Canio lurking in the middle. Well, it took Middlesbrough a while to find their stride here, as it was given away to Di Canio. Shaky defending, really. And he went for the curler. Then long ball forward as Middlesbrough began to find some form. It was played into the middle in the direction of Hasselbank, broke for Bolo Zenden, and that was 1-0. Becoming something of a cult hero on Teesside. Got the winner in the Premiership success at Charlton at the weekend, and such a good connection with that left foot to break the deadlock. 16 minutes gone. And Middlesbrough trying to play their way through again. Hasselbank and Viduka involved. Scuffed effort in the end. Really, wasn't that long ago that Lazio were crowned champions of Italy under Sven-Göran Eriksson in the good old days, really, for them. Last win in England came at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea in March 2000. That, in fact, was their only win on these shores. Hasselbank there, very ambitious from an awful long way out. Last minute of the first half, pulled back by Di Canio, and lacklustre passing, really. The enemy of Lazio. Then Pandev would shoot, and Filippini, the effort. Into the second half, Middlesbrough threatening. Viduka, such an awkward, gangly character. Good turn there, but unable to find a colleague. Middlesbrough had moved forward to the group stages with a 4-1 aggregate win against Banik Ostrava. And Lazio coming into this match on the back of a useful point earned at the San Siro, 0-0 with Inter at the weekend. So Some really clever play almost resulted in a second goal. Downing with the run and shot on the turn. And Hasselbank chesting it down. Effort came in low. This was Fabrizio Casazza, by the way, in the Lazio goal here. Injuries to both Peruzzi and his understudy, Matteo Sereni. Second goal would come within the last 20 minutes. Again, it would be Zenden. Really well recycled here by Middlesbrough. Ball in, and this time it was Zenden with his head. Couldn't be going better really for Middlesbrough. Played 2, 1-2, 3 goals scored, none conceded. Next go to Villarreal at the end of the month. Middlesbrough. Lazio at home to Partizan, and for the Rome side it's now becoming critical in this UEFA Cup tournament. They need a result. Didn't get one here though. Really solid performance by Middlesbrough. Great night here. 2-0.
The Galgenwaard Stadium and its supporters are amongst the most feared in Holland. Everybody who doesn't play here hates coming here. They beat Ajax and they were the first to defeat Feyenoord, and PSV couldn't even beat them either. But in Europe they rarely produce the same type of form or the intimidation that they do in the league. Up against them, Dnipro of the Ukraine. Two sides relatively inexperienced, certainly in the terms that we've been speaking about with the other sides that are in this competition tonight. For Utrecht, it's the 8th time they've been in the UEFA Cup. They began their European adventures too back in 1959, losing to the great Sporting Lisbon side prior to the 60s. And here they were to go to behind early on as well, actually. 11 minutes, Rotan, only goal this season for him. 11 minutes gone. That wasn't the start that was expected or hoped for here. Despite the good form against the top teams in Holland, they do tend sometimes to lack the concentration needed, and they do lose games against sides that they're supposed to beat. Dave Vandenberg has always been a provider of quality passes. And, he was severely missed, actually, in this game tonight. Stefan Tanguy, one of the major providers. Hans van der Haar, you can see in there, the number 9, the big number 9. They really do at times lack the type of player like the one they had a couple of years ago, a guy by the name of Dirk Kuyt, who took his striking talents elsewhere to Feyenoord. You'll see them on display later on today. Pretty dour game this for at least the first hour. It all kicked off toward the end, and especially in injury time, as we'll see. As we said, Dnipro of the Ukraine, formerly, of course, played under the Soviet Union. They met PSV and won in the UEFA Cup back in 85-86, 3-2 on aggregate. European Cup quarter-finalists. Now, this was the greatest chance they'd had, Utrecht, of levelling the scores inside the first period. It's not the quickest Van der Haar. Stefan Tanguy, who tends to take a position like that, does tend to have a better record of finishing than he showed there, should really have scored. And Di Tommaso's a new signing for this year. And the save from Kernozhenko, and all sorts being appealed for. And Van der Haar didn't get what he wanted, which was a penalty kick. Keeper might have got a fingertip to it. Van der Haar, his foot was high when he went in there. Utrecht have met a Ukrainian side only once before, when they met Dynamo Kiev in 85-86. It was in the Cup Winners' Cup, and they won that night. Now, what about that for a weak piece of goalkeeping? René Ponk will be absolutely disconsolate at the end of the game. That really was a shot that could have been saved. Kotzishin with the goal. His last goal in August in the qualifier against Artemisia. Only goals of the season, all in the UEFA Cup for him. It's part of the Ukraine. Back in 2004, they got to the fourth round of this competition, which was their best since 1990. That was the quarterfinals of the European Cup, as they lost to Benfica back then. One of those periodic great teams that Benfica tend to put together. Van der Haar. Douglas was on in the second period and got a goal back with 2 minutes to go. The 25-year-old who's popped up a couple of times this season with important goals. He got the equaliser against Ajax a few weeks ago. But ultimately that was to be as good as it got. There was an absolute raft of chances for Utrecht in the 4 minutes of injury time that we had, but they just couldn't find the finishing touch that they needed, and they end here tonight with a very disappointing defeat. 2-1 Dnipro win.
Although Austria Vienna here playing in the purple, they'd never beaten Spanish opposition before. They were looking for some of the inspiration that knocked out Barcelona on away goals 21 years ago in a Cup Winners' Cup quarter-final. Zaragoza brought with them a poor away record that undermines all their good work at home. Blows were traded in the first half here. First going the Austrian side's way. All in by Blanchard for Gilovic wide. Zaragoza's first genuine opening came in the 8th minute, a snapshot from the edge of the area. Wasn't a bad effort either, was it, by the captain Galletti. Won their opening match, Zaragoza 2-0 against FC Utrecht. 2 goals from David Villa. Javi Moreno, though, it was, with the clear-cut chance racing through. Didulica, the former Ajax keeper, with the block. And then they managed to snuff out the second chance as well. Ten games against Spanish teams down the years. Austria Vienna, no victories. Terrific effort there, though, wasn't it? It's the closest we came to a goal in the first half. It was Vatusek, the Czech. Would have been some goal. It was a deliberate effort, wasn't it? Spotted Luis off his line, and it seemed to galvanise Austria Vienna here. Good surging play there by Kiesen Ebner. Zaragoza had won 9 matches in a row at home in the league, equaling the club record. So the coach Victor Munoz Manrique really is getting something right. It's in this UEFA Cup competition, though, that they want to push forward. And having seen Austria spurn so many opportunities, they wondered whether they could nick something here. It was Javi Moreno, the former Alaves player, starred in that team's terrific run to the final in 2001. It was his effort. 70 minutes gone. The breakthrough would be found, and it was Radoslav Gilovic who managed just to force it home. Zaragoza were a little bit flat-footed. They looked questioningly across to the referee's assistant. Just look at this. As the initial shot comes through, there is the briefest of touches from the Zaragoza substitute Generolo. Didn't matter, though, to the Pole, Gilovic. His only previous goals this season had come in a routine 9-0 win in the Austrian league against Bregenz. This goal meant far, far more to both he and Austria Vienna, though, coming as it did with just 19 minutes left. Well, Zaragoza did press after that. And Oscar allowing the shot for Savio. Too near Didulica. And that was about it. as far as Zaragoza were concerned. This first game in the group for Austria Vienna, well, ending exactly as they wanted it to. A narrow win, but a win all the same. 1-0.
Benfica have reached 8 UEFA club competition finals and returned for this game to a city where they played the 87-88 European Cup final. On that occasion, they lost 6-5 to PSV Eindhoven. Now, both clubs have been in high-scoring form in this competition. In the opening night, Stuttgart winning 5-1, the performance of the night against Beveren. And Benfica beat Heerenveen, who were going well as well in the league, 4-2 to 2 exceptionally good performances on the opening night in that competition. It really did set us up for one of the games of the night here. And we were talking about the clubs with lots of history and tradition. People often don't think about Stuttgart, but they have had a pretty successful time of it over the last 15 years in Europe. Of course, most recently losing the Cup Winners' Cup final to Chelsea back in 1998. This, of course, too, was a return for Giovanni Trapattoni to the place where he did coach in Germany. Spent some time, of course, with Bayern Munich. Stuttgart, of course, would have preferred to have been competing in the Champions League this season, but they are realistic contenders to win this competition. Now, these new gold shirts of Benfica, another German goalkeeper, looking as if he's not in the best position to sort out the problems that were opening up in front of him, but that wasn't the best piece of finishing either from Pereira. Well, Benfica's roll of honour, as we said, is something that few can even match. Those heady years from 1962, where they beat Tottenham, remember, 4-3 in the European Cup on way to going to the final. That was Matthias Sammer, who's done such a good job here, although they're not going particularly well in the league at the moment. Remember, they've lost, or coming into this 3 on a row, which had dropped them out of the top spot. They were still expected to win, though, in this game tonight, and they would. Kaká, 23 minutes gone. 10 goals in all competitions for him this season. In his second season here, after signing from Nuremberg. And he continues to improve as a player week in, week out, and with the quality of that finishing straight through the legs. Hint of luck, of course, along the way. But through 2 players' legs, it's not very often that you see that happening. Into the second period, it was 8 minutes old when the second goal went in. Silvio Meissner with his 3rd of the campaign. Well, Benfica's recent history against German clubs isn't particularly good. Won and lost against Kaiserslautern in the Champions League in 1999. Lost 7-2 on aggregate over 2 games to Bayern Munich back in 1996. But there was one tremendous number, the 4-4 draw against Bayer Leverkusen in the Cup Winners' Cup back in 1994. They pushed forward admirably, looking for spaces, looking to try and take advantage of any lacks in concentration from Stuttgart. But there was to prove to be an untypically efficient German performance. This wasn't long before the 3rd goal went in either. Kurani. 2 hat-tricks he's got already this season, Kurani. But his last 2 goals have both been in the UEFA Cup. Not going quite so well in the league at the moment, Kurani. ...1974 in the UEFA Cup quarter-finals against Setúbal, which they won 3-2 on aggregate. It's the only meeting between Stuttgart and a Portuguese team with this amount of generosity that was on display tonight, and the amount of luck that they had in producing this result, and hope they meet them a few more times as well. Now, the slip from Timo Hildebrand, almost giving the most unlikely of goal scorers, Manuel Fernandes, that was the number 37. Well, 1990, the last time they made a UEFA Cup competition final. Philipp Lahm almost finishing with a goal as well. Looks like it's going to be another long while before Benfica get back. They're not a good performance on the night, and Stuttgart well deserving of a 3-0 victory.
Well, Beveren's 5-1 battering by Stuttgart on day one arguably confirmed them as the weakest team in the entire competition, and it was another uncomfortable experience for them here. The Belgians providing the opposition in Dinamo Zagreb's first match in the group stages here. The home side from the capital of Croatia wasted absolutely no time. Break down the left-hand side by Zahora. The same player curled in the corner, and that was a goal. 16 minutes gone, and here's a good old-fashioned Croatian name for you, Eduardo da Silva. Born in Rio de Janeiro, but a naturalised Croat, and he got his 5th goal in 3 matches here. Within 4 minutes, the free kick was swinging in and the net was bulging again. This time it was Andrej Mijatovic. Big defender coming up to score his 2nd goal of the campaign. A free kick from Kranjčar. Really woeful defending by Beveren. And their interest in this season's UEFA Cup, the Belgian side, pretty much ending before it's begun. 16 Ivory Coast players in the Beveren squad. But wherever this side was picked from, they were unable to hold a candle here to the superior technique of the Croatians. They were simply passing through Beveren at will. And it was no great surprise when a 3rd goal arrived in the 35th minute. This time it was Zahora. Normally a substitute, Dario Zahora, but started on the right-hand side of midfield here, and once again it was a really straightforward header. Slotted through after that by Kranjčar, and Beveren were collapsing, and we hadn't even had half-time yet. Zahora again finished it off. Well, Beveren, believe it or not, have had moments of glory in European competitions. They beat Inter Milan, of all teams, back in 1979, but lost in the semis of the UEFA Cup that year to Barcelona. Going to be a long, long while before they get back to those sort of competitive days. Trailing 4-0 here early in the second half, and just look at this, they lost all desire to improve themselves. A little bit more composure there from Zahora, and he might well have had a hat-trick. Zagreb might well have had a 5th. Didn't really need to hit it that early, but they were intent here on embarrassing their opponent, Zagreb. Twice finalists, the Croatians, but those days in the days of the old Yugoslavian Republic in the Intercities Fairs Cup. 63 and 67, Valencia and Leeds, their final opponents. They certainly want to revisit the final again, don't they? They must wish that they could play Beveren every week. That was 5-0, and it came from the boot of Niko Kranjčar. It's the young midfielder who's alerting the scouts from all Europe's top clubs. His 1st goal since August here. Further rich pickings for the Zagreb attackers. Amazingly, Beveren managed to get a goal here, but perhaps we can assume that Dinamo went to sleep. Take nothing away, though, from the header by Bjorn Verminch. It's the striker He'd only been on a matter of minutes, the 18-year-old, and really strong header to suggest that, well, he might well be given a game next time out. Certainly can't do any worse, can he, than the rest of his teammates here. The final goal, number 6, was added by Edin Mushkin, just about getting it beyond Barry in the Beveren goal. 6-1, nightmare again for Beveren. 5-1 defeat in their first match, 6-1 here, and they can forget about going through. With a useful point picked up at Auxerre in the first match, GAC of Graz had set themselves up ideally in Group F. Next up came a home tie with the Polish team Amica Ronki at the Arnold Schwarzenegger Stadium. The first ever meeting between Austrian and Polish clubs in this competition. GAC in the red here. It was they who threatened earliest. Bieniuk with the clearance. 26 minutes gone, and it was Amica who found space down the left-hand side. Really good low ball in, wasn't it? And not a bad finish either from Jacek Dębinski. A goal that stunned Graz here, but beautifully taken. Dębinski still going strong at the age of 35, scoring his 8th of the season. Amica had their best chance to find another goal that would have had GAC in further trouble before the break, but the quick counter-attack resulted in an equaliser. Within 5 minutes of that goal from Dębinski, it was Ronald Coleman here, just getting there first. Then Badzina here down the left-hand side, ably supported by Ammerhauser. Stud cross to the far side and nodded over. As GAC found the momentum in the closing stages of the first half. Pattern would be resumed really after the break. Calamitous defending. Malarts, the Amica keeper, had his blushes spared there. At the other end though, they were scrapping and desperately trying to guard the goal. Domestically, Amica had won 3 in a row, but lost against Szczecin at the weekend, and they might be just on the cusp of a dip. 8 points behind Wisla Krakow in the Polish Championship, the same points margin that Graz trail Rapid Vienna by, and in the Austrian Bundesliga. Tokic lifted it forward, and then the foul as Malarts came streaking out. Could only be one outcome. It was a penalty kick. Badzina, who is a really industrious figure on the left for GAC, he won the penalty. Coleman scored it for 2-1. His second of the night, the Austrian international, their top scorer last season with a mighty 27. That took his tally up to 11 for this campaign. Amica didn't give up though. It was squared for a speculative effort from Dudka. But then with 20 minutes to go, points were sealed. It was very patient here from GAC and played down the line. Ramuj got it in, not for the first time. Ronald Coleman, the beneficiary of some really dubious strong key defending. Again, it was the quick break down the flank. It was Standfest this time down the right hand side who got it in, and look how many touches Coleman was afforded there. Up to 12 for the season then. Graz just out-muscled in the middle of the park, but some really profligate finishing. Barczak there, going for the effort when he had a man in space to his left. Grzybowski 10 minutes from time. Gak pushing forward. Could have had another goal. It was set up ideally for the shot coming in from the edge of the area from Skoro, but 3 had to be enough for Graz in the end. And Ronki, after losing their first game 5-0 against Rangers, in real trouble.
So AZ, who were the UEFA Cup runners-up in 80-81 to Ipswich Town, are in their first seasons of club competition since 82-83 and play here just days after beating Feyenoord 4 goals to 1. Their first away defeat in not far short of a year. And they, under Adrianza's iron fist rule, are gushing with confidence here. And it was a tremendous opening spell. Husagems with the opening goal. Well, there's plenty of belief around these parts. The 23 years on since that defeat, but this team is more than capable of making a sustained challenge to break up the traditional hold of the big 3 clubs, Ajax, PSV and Feyenoord in Holland. Ajax, of course, having a miserable time in the year. Of course, Adrianza, the former Ajax coach, who somebody comically suggested that if Ronald Koeman did get fired in the winter window, then perhaps this guy was the one to take over. This was the goal of the night. Husagems again with the goal. In his first full season here at AZ, he came from Liège last year. 3 goals this season prior to tonight. Found it a little bit difficult to settle in and become anywhere near as prolific as he was when he was in Belgium. 16 and it was his best season total back in 2002. But he's made his international debut recently. He was in the Belgian team that went to Spain. And were beaten. Of course, they had 2 players sent off that night, one of them Barcourt. Now, there was a chance still, and then quite how that was put wide is still something of a mystery. Denny Lanzat, the club captain, who's another who's been called up by Marco van Basten this season. And they were running riot against Auxerre. Beat Utrecht, Auxerre 4-0 last season before losing to Eindhoven. They've got a pretty mixed record against Dutch teams. There's still talk very vividly about that final back in 81. 5-4 on aggregate, losing the first leg 3-0 at Portman Road, and then 4-2 at the Alkmaar Stadium. Famous face in the crowd. You wonder who he's come to check out. There's plenty to see from both of these 2 teams in actual fact. 21 was Kenneth Perez with the delivery there. Barry Van Gaalen, at 34 years of age, is producing some of the best football of his entire career. Really industrial midfield player, loves to get stuck in and involved. Usually lasts for about 65 minutes these days rather than the full 90, but he stayed on for virtually the full game here today. Dying seconds of the match. This really was a tremendous performance from AZ. Only previously he'd met one French side, that was Sochaux, in the semi-finals of the 81 UEFA Cup. They of course won that 4-3 on aggregate. Giroud was present in this stadium on Sunday to see that AZ performance against Feyenoord. The score did flatter them somewhat, but they took full advantage of all the weaknesses, and they did it here again as well tonight. Well, 1998 they got to the quarterfinals, the best run in recent years, when they lost to Lazio Auxerre. 15th season in European competition, so they're not novices by any stretch of the imagination, but they played here like they were. Congratulations all round, smiles and handshakes.
In Group A, there was a first ever meeting with Scottish opposition for Schalke. Murrayfield Stadium, home of Hearts in Europe at least, the venue. Ralph Rangnick's team still smarted from the home draw with Bâle that kicked off their campaign in frustrating fashion. Hearts too needed severe improvements, having been beaten convincingly 3-0 by Feyenoord. Schalke, tough competitors from the Bundesliga, against a Hearts side here experimenting with playing at Scotland's National Rugby Stadium. Really good chance, but wasn't turned in on the rebound by Hartley. Ross there was the busier goalkeeper before the break. High ball swung into the area, and then the resulting corner caused problems too. Schalke are unable to get it away, as a really bright, passionate start here by the Scots. Cross into the middle again, headed out by Bourdon. And Schalke keen on breaking quickly here. Hamit out in top, the Turk with the ball to Ailton. He's the Brazilian whose goals fired Werder Bremen to the Bundesliga title last season. Moved on to Schalke, where they are expecting big things actually. Recent Bundesliga winners at the Olympiastadion away to Bayern Munich. And it was the German side that began to play the better football here. Ailton with the next chance. Hearts fourth in the Scottish Premier League. 3-0 they beat Dundee United at the weekend. Schalke, one of the three Intertoto Cup winners. That's why they're here in the UEFA Cup. Close to the break. Putting more pressure here on Craig Gordon and the Hearts defence. That was the Brazilian Lincoln. Hearts under new management, of course. John Robertson, the former player. Ailton here trying to take advantage of hesitancy and bad organisation in the Hearts defence. After the break, and it was Schalke's turn to be put under pressure. Really controversial incident actually. This was a red card for Patrick Kisnorbo. It's the Australian, dismissed for simulation. That was a real let-off for Hearts there. Terrible defending. And it was only the woodwork there that prevented the effort from Ebba Sand, giving Schalke the lead. Writing was on the wall though, as all the best chances for the home side before the break were not taken. How close was that? Cross initially from the right-hand side, dipping onto the woodwork. Craig Gordon, the young goalkeeper, exposed again. Look at this, it would have been a really dramatic goal. It was hooked in by Niels Ude Kampuis. Christian Gross, the Bâle coach from Switzerland, eyeing out the next opponents for his team. Of course, they face Hearts next. That was the inevitable moment. It came in the 72nd minute. Further egg on the face of Craig Gordon. He allowed the shot from Lincoln to squirm through his hands. And it's 2 matches, 2 defeats for Hearts, with not a goal scored. Schalke off on the winning trail. Lincoln's goal here, winning it at Murrayfield.
Despite losing for the first time away from home since last December, 4-1 to AZ on Sunday, Ruud Gullit was little concerned, it seemed. Just one of those days, he said, where everything went disastrously wrong. They created plenty of chances, 2 good penalty decisions, and they pitch up here today against one of the most successful names in the history of European competition. 36 seasons they've played in Europe, Ferencváros. They've not won much in terms of trophies, but they've been around plenty. Both of these two teams, as we said, immense tradition in Europe. Feyenoord ranks second behind Ajax as Holland's most successful team, despite that both of these two have been involved in Europe almost every year since the competition began. They've never met in any UEFA competition as the Feyenoord team, and there is no change to the side that was defeated on Sunday by AZ. It wasn't just the scoreline, the 4-1, the fact they'd lost, it was the fact they had 2 players sent off as well. Song and Pascal Boschart going for a particularly vicious challenge, and he completely lost his head. But Ruud Gullit has masterminded a mini revolution in Rotterdam, a team that was rudderless, going absolutely nowhere, and it's been utterly transformed in 6 months, so much so that they are the number 2. Saba Laszlo, the coach of Ferencváros, there's Boschart. It's onside, too many in the centre. And Dirk Kuyt from Shinji Ono's ball, the Japanese international, who stated already earlier this season that he wants to leave at the end of this season to further his career. That classic statement, with a bigger club. Castellan and Kalou, the 2 players, and of course Providence, there's Dirk Kuyt. And it's a familiar pattern that's building here in Budapest. Problems being created down the right-hand side. Romeo Castellan and Solomon Kalou providing all sorts of problems early on. Baptiste ball. Saidi. As is Metiglia. Good ball that by Metiglia. Kalou waits and waits, looking for the position, anybody in the centre, and a little slow Dirk Kuyt to get in there. Wasn't really sure who to aim at, really. Saidi's got to get back there. Majewski waiting in the penalty area. That's a free kick given. But too industrious, that challenge. Really is a cracky atmosphere inside this stadium, not quite full up. This is Kalou. It was only Barcourt in the centre, as you can see there. Castellan coming in behind him. Kuyt was on the edge of the penalty area, waiting for the pullback. Toza, the number 88. Hungarian international, of course, Gabor Babos. One of the key reasons they've done quite well. Toza sets it up. A lot more competitive in the middle of the field final than they were last season. That's a chance. Majewski in there. Saidi wasn't sure what to do, and it was over the head of Patrick Powett. Lopez. Saidi intercepts. Pascal Boschart. Oh, getting close down again. Majewski. Free kick. Not a good challenge. Patrick Powett. Saying it was his first challenge. He was fully committed then. He's not the quickest pallet. Nothing wrong rather with his competitive values. So this is Tozer to drive it right through. What a goal! Ferenc Tozer, the 19-year-old, has opened the scoring. Well, that really was very, very sloppy indeed, that from Feyenoord. Wall was all over the place, if you could call it that. And they really didn't believe there was any threat at all from such a distance out. That was at least 30 metres away. It's his first ever European goal. Well, that was shambolic, really, from Feyenoord. And for a team with as much experience as it's got, it should have known better than that. Well, Hungarian football has had precious little to worry or to celebrate about. Sixers had nothing to do for the past 10 minutes. Bajewski is in there again. Saruni is there. Bajewski causing all sorts of problems. Could be a penalty there. And Boschart, if he gets away with it, is lucky. He's lucky. Have another look at this. Did Boschart get the ball? Not at all. He connected with Bajewski's right foot there. He didn't have much luck on Sunday. Maybe it's just his night tonight. Got a fairly interesting reputation, or record rather, against English teams in this competition. Bajewski's ball, Sawunmi making his way into the penalty area. And Metiglia to cover the number 78, Balog. As I said, the lost against Leeds United in the final of the 68 UEFA Cup final by a goal to nil. Beat Manchester United in the semi-finals in 65, and then lost to Wolves in the semi-final of the UEFA Cup in 1972. And an honour, of course, to meet Tottenham in the final that year. A flicker by Sawunmi. Well, there was too many red shirts in front of Lipeschi. Both of these two teams have got histories against English teams. Of course, Feyenoord have had this on-off affair over the last, 35, 40 years with Tottenham. They tend to meet them whenever there's something important going on, right from back in 1962 when they first lost 4-2 to that UEFA Cup meeting in the early 70s. And then again, there's Kalou. Kalou's getting the return. Kalou's in, and he scored! First time the combination between the two top scorers in Eredivisie has clicked into gear and worked. And Kalou gets onto the score sheet and is one apiece. Well, the concentration dropped away. They believed maybe that as the game had gone on, the threat had lessened somewhat. Kuyt, the sharpest finisher in Eredivisie. It's not just about his goals, it's about his work rate as well. Kuyt, he never stops working for 90 minutes. Great position he took up there, beautifully cushioned pass, and a good finish from Solomon Kalou. It's a good jump, Song. Ooh, dangerous challenge again from Song. Boschart over there to assist him. Oh, poor ball given away by Song. Christie's in. Metiglia didn't know an awful lot about it as it came across to Sawunmi. Kalou's getting it in. Buffel is making ground into the penalty area now if he can lay it across. Well, the family Kalou have had varying degrees of success tonight. Bonaventure, not much with OZ. Oh dear! Babos didn't get anywhere near it at all. It's claimed he was pushed by Powett. Yepes, I think it was Yepes. There's Kite. Still there, that was not a particularly good challenge from Baptiste. They could be welcoming Ajax into this competition, so if Utrecht and AZ and Feyenoord make it through to the last 32, they could, as we said, be joined by a fourth Dutch team. So it could be a big year for the Dutch. Of course, Feyenoord, the last Dutch side to make it to a final. That's a decent save from Sux. Lopez leaves it, and that's straight at Babos, was going the opposite direction. Realignment of his body in mid-air. No, well, that was right on the edge of the penalty area. Penska. It wasn't Song, I think Kite was in there making the challenge as well. Why that looked as acrobatic. Certainly the wall was a bit better constructed than it was the last time. Stida to take this free kick. As Lipsy, oh, that was very close. That was no more than, what, half a metre wide. He's looked really useful at times in this game, Lipsy. Well, as you said, invention was dead from set plays. They really have shown plenty of it, Ferencváros, tonight. There's Lipsy with the corner kick. Babos staying on his line, probably a good job. He's not commanded his area that well at all. And, well, the number 9 in there again. Krzyzewski's had, what, 3-4 chances in this game tonight. And there he is, just there. Two of them getting in each other's way. The number 99 is Penska. Now, Kite. Scored plenty from that angle. Yepes with the challenge. Ian Powers in there. Not afraid even at this stage for its team to commit players forward, and that is the final whistle. It's one apiece on the night, just about the right scoreline.
Lille were hoping that a terrific start to their league campaign was going to generate some momentum for their European adventures, but defeat a little Aachen of Germany on match day 1 had them playing catch-up in Group H here. Zenit, by contrast, are one of 3 teams to score 5 3 weeks ago when they saw off AEK Athens. No problems going forward then for the Russian side. Indeed, in the first round, the aggregate win over Red Star Belgrade was 6-1. Lille, though, with some wonderful early play, and what a goal that they found as well to break through with 34 minutes gone. Gregory Taffaro here, the strike being all the more remarkable in that it's his first goal in 5 years. What a goal, though. It really stunned Zenit. Not for long, though. Within 5 minutes, Alexander Kurzhakov had hauled the Russian side level. A little bit lucky, wasn't he, to see the ball dropping into his path after the deflection. Lille got the winner, though. Matt Moussalou scored here 4 minutes before the break. 5 of his goals of 9 this season have come in this competition, including the Intertoto. Vital win and recovery for Lille. Just to take you through the results then, Group A sees Feyenoord and Schalke locked on 4 points at the top after 2 played. Group B, and Parma are off the mark, but it's Besiktas with maximum points so far are top of. Terrific start to European competition for Middlesbrough. They're top of Group E. Group F, RZ. Big wins for Stuttgart and Dinamo Zagreb. We just saw the Lille win then against Zenit St. Petersburg.